This episode is brought to you by Monogram. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Hey there, welcome to Design Dash podcast and your guide to designing a life you love. Today it is me and Melissa, and we are celebrating our 21st podcast. We should somehow just like breeze by 20.
I guess so.
Yeah, so our 20th was with our guest Erin Cummings. So if you haven't heard it, it's a really good
amazing
one.
Guest.
Yeah, go back to it and listen to it because it was awesome. So here we are celebrating 21. So we decided to mark this. This is our milestone. Yay, congratulations,
yes,
Melissa.
Congrats, we did it. Especially when I was kind of on the fence about podcasting in the first place. And now I really like it.
God, I love it too. It's a commitment though, right?
Gosh. Well, we killed ourselves those first couple of weeks trying to record so many back to back. That was hard.
And now we're just kind of like, hey, you want to record our podcast? Let's do it.
We're jumping on, no problem. Doing our own troubleshooting, just rocking it.
Yeah, we got this. And so, well, today it's going to be a quick one, and we're just talking about network and community and the benefits of building your network and our experience with a mastermind group. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to start there. So we started our own mastermind group, and this is through Design Dash. And so this is a group, actually we've had two completed cohorts now. Yeah. So two different groups, which is amazing because we just had an idea one day like, hey, we want to get to know some other design business owners. Why don't we start a mastermind? And so we did. And so now we've been through two full cohorts. And so we just want to kind of talk about that today and what we've learned from it, what has worked really, really well, and what we're planning to do next. So Melissa, I'd love to know from you, like, what worked, in your opinion, what worked really well with the mastermind in general, but also from cohort 1 to cohort 2?
That's a great question because we made some changes. And I should say this before, is never having joined a mastermind myself and not really having an expectation of what I could get out of it and what other people could get out of it, just like throwing ourselves into it. And I think that the first time we did it, it was more free flowing conversation, and they were longer conversations, which were really good. But I felt like, I need a little bit more structure. And so I loved how in the second,
and I think that was the feedback from the group too, right?
Yeah,
a little more structure.
And I should say, I think it's always difficult to try and please a variety of different people. And so getting a good consensus and getting to a place where I think everybody was like, hey, I can get something out of this, was what we were really looking for in this second iteration. And we had great groups both times. But I think this second one was even better because we had the structure involved in it and took everybody's feedback too. So things that again, not having been in a mastermind, I was so surprised by how much I was really learning in each one, because everybody has like similar challenges. And so being able to fix somebody else's problem is, of course, something that I absolutely love doing. And then hearing how other people were fixing problems that we've had in the past, I was like, oh, of course, we could have just done that. So I think that it was really the community aspect of it, but adding some more structure to it.
We'd like to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We've partnered with Monogram for over a decade with our design firm, Laura U Design Collective, and we're so happy to partner with them in producing the Design Dash podcast. Monogram sources the highest quality materials for their appliances, from commercial grade stainless steel to unscratchable sapphire glass. Monogram ensures lasting beauty and unmatchable quality for your luxury kitchen. And not only that, but they have an amazing team who we love working with, and we know you will too. So thanks, Monogram.
Yeah, I think the structure was super important, but also I think it's critical to point out the difference between cohort 1 and cohort 2. The biggest difference to me was that in the first group of people, it was extremely varied. The type of firm they had, they're all design entrepreneurs, they're all business owners, but their firm types were different, like in multiple ways. So Size wise, we had someone that was actually a couple people that were solopreneurs, and then one that had 7 people on their team, and then one that had, a couple of us included, and one other had, 2 others had 15 people on their team. So there was a big range to the size of firm, and then also how long they had their firm. Some were just starting out, or maybe they had been in business 5 years, and then some had been in business 20 years. So I think there was a big spread in that initial group, whereas the second cohort was much more closely aligned.
Yeah.
So there were a couple that were solopreneurs, and then there was, I think the biggest, aside from us, was a group of 7, maybe. So much tighter focus, and similar phases of their firms. Obviously, like some are more established than others. No one is exactly alike, but they were more like-minded, I feel like, in the second cohort.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think we should probably back up and even talk about why we offered a mastermind in the first place, and really what was the big what was the purpose, and why do we bring people together? And you've done masterminds before, or have been
have I
involved in one? I thought maybe.
No, I mean, not like this.
Okay.
Not over an extended period of time. So ours lasts for 6 months. I have been involved in other groups where I've talked to other design firm owners and been with them for several days at a time, but not for like 6 months at a time. And I think that is what is key to our mastermind, is that it is a 6-month time frame. So we're able to set goals up front and talk to each other and understand each other at the outset, talk about what we want to accomplish, and then have that accountability partner over 6 months or 12 months if you stay for a year, which has happened. I think that accountability and understanding of where you want to go with a group, it was really important too. And just to see that growth is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, you had mentioned that we had 2 solopreneurs in that group, and now one of them isn't a solopreneur anymore. She's building a team.
I know. So that's so cool. And she did it successfully. It wasn't like a false start where she hired someone and it was terrible and it didn't work out, because she did so really thoughtfully and picked the collective brain of the mastermind to talk about what worked for them, what should she consider when hiring someone, how does she know when she's ready. And I think that all of those things really played into the fact that she was successful in hiring someone, onboarding them, and keeping them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that was really cool to see her grow throughout the mastermind. And yeah, so masterminds, again, for me, being really new to them, it's just groups of people getting together, working out goals, basically. Our mastermind is anywhere from 6 to 8 people. I think that, I've seen some masterminds that they can be up to 25. They need to be a little bit smaller so people can get the kind of support and accountability they need without it just being like, you've got to take care of now 100 other people. And ours are super intimate and very small, and they last for 6 months. Some last for 3 months. Some last for a year. I think you can be in some masterminds indefinitely. I often find, though, that I start to kind of wane in my ambition and motivation at around the 3-month mark. So 6 months is really good. And I think that for me, a big benefit from masterminds, and we talk about this a lot in the podcast, is I'm not a very goal-oriented person. Kind of just like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then if I do it or I don't, I'm just, as whatever. But being in the mastermind I was able to really set a goal, write these things down, see other people do the same thing, and then to see other people be really successful in reaching those goals. I was like, oh, maybe I should become a goal setter.
Yeah. And I think it's really encouraging too for everyone in the group, but also for me to say, okay, I'm setting this goal at the outset. And then at the beginning of each mastermind meeting, we say, okay, what did you accomplish since the last time we met? And we meet monthly.
Yeah.
So it's every month. And there's always talk in between that time. There's Zooms, there's sometimes one-on-one meetups, there's a variety of coffee chats, there's a variety of ways to touch base. But it's that 30-day check-in where you're like, okay, last time we met, I said I was doing this and I did it. And not even that, I did more. And I think that is encouraging to me, because you're right. It's that you start burning out at that 90 days. Yeah. And I'm sure there are tons of studies around that tell us why. And that's how we set our goals for our quarterly too. We're like, okay, here's our 90-day goal. We're going to accomplish that within 90 days. So I think that is important to point out. But we do a 6-month mastermind because I feel like that's a good amount of time to commit to something, to give us enough time to get to know each other, to establish those goals and actually accomplish them. I felt really good about that time frame.
Because the goals are big.
I don't know. I mean, obviously
they're big.
They're big goals. Big. And I want to meet with everyone forever, but 6 months is a good commitment time.
Yeah. You get to know people so well over those 6 months too, which is
nice. I think so. What's your biggest takeaway from, let's just say, the last cohort, because it's freshest?
Yeah. Maybe that's why 3 months is so good for me, because I can't really remember beyond that.
Right.
Sometimes like, oh, I did that? Like okay.
That's gone. I can't retain that stuff.
I think, man, that's a good question. What was my biggest takeaway from this group? I think it's really, and this is going to sound broad, but to make your goals is even bigger than what you think that they can be, because we just had our last session, and to hear these amazing things that people are doing, they've added to their team, they're adding services. They are potentially having a second locations, a couple of them, or new physical locations. And to hear from the very beginning, to compare, I guess, from where they are ending to the beginning, those goals just got bigger and bigger and bigger over time. Mm-hmm. And so I think being able to be in a group where there's a lot of support, but also that accountability, there's no escaping that goal. We're going to talk about it. And it was really nice to see that people were achieving them, even in 6 months.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can do in 6 months.
What about you? What was your biggest takeaway?
So I guess my biggest surprise was that, this is a group of business owners. And so I expected to come into this talking purely about your firm, your employees, growing your business. And I ended up talking to several of the members about creative ideas too. And so that was really exciting, just to sit around and brainstorm creative, or especially if you're a solopreneur, or maybe you don't have a big team that's collaborating. It's fun to have somebody else that's like, what do you think about this? This is a real example. I'm going to color wash this whole room and it's freaking my client out. How do I sell that to her? Because I know it's going to be amazing. And when you're by yourself, you can second guess, especially when you have a client pushing back. So I thought that was really cool to even have that back and forth on creative. And it wasn't just business.
Yeah.
And I'm all about business.
Well, and we talked about some personal stuff too, because I think when you are owning your own business, you have a responsibility to your family also. And we have someone in our mastermind right now who's really considering having to make a move because she wants a physical location. And so having to deal with those kinds of conversations too, we didn't have to deal with that so much, I think, in our first cohort. So I've found that to be really illuminating about just the kinds of challenges that you have to deal with as an entrepreneur, and some of the sacrifices I think that you have to make in order to reach your goals and be successful while you're still, providing for your family and wanting to make sure, because she's kids too. So she wants to make sure they're going to a great school, and she loves her current house, so she doesn't want to move that. I feel for her.
Yeah, it's a lot. The decision-making is a lot. And I think that the community building around a mastermind is such a huge benefit. You may not get that somewhere else. So I have found that we've made some really good connections through the mastermind and just getting to know people. And the in-person, I'll call it a retreat, where we go to market together, either Design Chicago or High Point Market or wherever. Just being in person for a couple of days for an intensive, you really form a strong connection that I think will last. So even though the second cohort, the second mastermind is complete, I don't think it's like I'll never talk to any of them again. I think it's really created a lifelong relationship. So I value that a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And for a couple of the members who are here in Houston, we were able to build our networks even further and introduce, somebody who's emerging in the industry to other established designers and help her create her network. And sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, I've been in the industry for a while, but I don't know what I can really contribute, not being a designer, really just coming from the marketing side. So being able to introduce her to other people, and she was able to say, man, you know what? I've actually gotten potential new clients from these connections. It's like, wow, this is a really powerful thing to just put two people together. Like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yep. I think the connections you can form it's really incredible. I guess what is the biggest benefit for a business owner? Like going back to the business, because I know why we're doing it, right? I mean, it is. It's also the personal, but it's the business too. So what's one of the biggest benefits that you have seen come out of this for someone else, like that you've witnessed as an outside observer?
I mean, we're in business to make some money, right? So I've seen some people in our mastermind, they're able to charge more, charge what they're worth, add an additional service for something that they've already been doing but haven't yet monetized. And I think that
we did that.
And I think that we were only, and I'm talking about everybody now, but we were able to make these revenue decisions because we heard that it was successful from other people. And you had mentioned a little bit ago, sometimes you have that uncertainty when it's just you. And I have that uncertainty about a lot of things. I'm always very skeptical before we jump into something. So to hear these case studies from people who say, you know what, I was afraid of it too. I did it. Here's how successful it was. And then to see other people take that advice, implement it, and now they're making a lot more money. Like, wow, that to me is the number one benefit of being in these business oriented masterminds.
Yeah. And I think, we did so much stuff. We did contract review. We compared our contracts, our design agreements. Some of ours are 20 pages long, some are 5. So we're like, what is the difference and why? So I think we did a whole contract review that was really shined a light on what we're doing and if we could do it better. But as far as the revenue side, we started charging for 2 team members that we had never charged for their time before. We had never considered charging for their time. We didn't think we could. This is with our firm. And I've been in business 17 years and never charged for this role, and heard from a mastermind member, oh no, we charge for that. Absolutely. That is critical to every project. We were leaving so much money on the table by not charging for that. And we started and it's worked so well. So even just for us, I saw a huge return. So I know I'm like touting this wonderful mastermind, but it really does work. It really did work. So I guess just to wrap it up, because we could talk about this for 5 hours, because we have done hours and hours and hours of mastermind prep and educational content and meeting with other people. And so there's a lot we've gleaned from it, but we're building this new cohort that's kicking off soon. So to encourage other people and other business owners, what would you say to them about joining? I'm putting you on the spot.
Let me get this soundbite together. I think if you're on the fence about mastermind, just do it, because that's one of the things that I've learned about the mastermind also is that if you have a goal and you're thinking, oh, that's too big, or, oh, I can't achieve that. No, just try and just do it. Like first of all, I mean, what are you losing? There's only something to gain, I think, in the mastermind. I've gained so much. I've seen people in the mastermind gain so much, whether it's revenue or hiring new team members that are really working out successfully, or, just branching out into new physical locations and getting outside of your comfort zone. I think it's really great to get into a mastermind to have that kind of support and accountability, because you can get outside of your comfort zone all day long and still feel uncomfortable. But when you have that support, that's when it really starts to mesh and work.
Yeah, the support's huge. And I think, I know we've talked about we're setting these huge goals and thinking big, but I think this could work for you too if you're stuck, if you're feeling like, God, what do I do next? I've hit this plateau, or I've done what I thought I would do, but it doesn't feel like I'm done. But what's next? So even if you're feeling stuck, this could be a good way. Joining a mastermind could be a really good way just to get unstuck and think about what is next for you, and have the support of other people to help you envision what it could be and how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope all of our mastermind members are hearing this and they're like, yes, that's exactly why.
I know. I'm sending this personally to every single one of them. Well, I guess that's all I have, really. I just wanted to talk about what we've been doing, and that, we are kicking off another mastermind group. So if you are interested, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, check out the website. So it's design-.com/mastermind, and we're accepting applications now because we want to make sure that the groups are really cohesive, that everybody is everybody can learn from each other. So that's why we do the application process. But yes, please, we would love to have you.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.